Catch up on all the live shows right here on africatechradio.com.
Yes, of course, we are all superwoman. This month, we are celebrating every superwoman we know. And of course, the ability that makes us superwoman. For me, I feel is the ability to communicate with people. I don't know, I just bring this air of being comfortable to chat with me. Sometimes I wonder, like, do I make people too comfortable to say anything to me? But then I get to recognize it as my superpower. And of course, celebrating superwomen today, I've got ladies from Paystack. They have to pay me the money. I've got Folu and Tere on virtual call with me, and of course we're going to be talking about everything bringing more women into the tech space. But first of all, hi Folu, hi Tere.
Hi.
This is not the energy you are giving me. Oh,
hi, what's up?
By the way, we're discussing how today has been for you guys. So I would like to ask officially on the show, how is today going for you?
For me, so I've been in a couple of meetings since 9 a.m. This is my third meeting for the day, and I have 2 more. So it's back-to-back meetings for me today, which is funny because Friday should be light work for me, but I guess that's not the case.
For you, like the soft life, so just putting it out there.
I try, please. I can't feel myself.
Terry, how is it going for you?
Yeah. I think equally as busy, maybe not in meetings since 9 a.m., but definitely have been in meetings and, have been writing a lot. I've written like 2 documents today. So it's just been,
Work.
Yes.
I couldn't help but sing. But before we talk about the work you're doing, I'd like to ask you individually, what is your superpower that you actually bring to work? Something that's peculiar to you as a woman.
Ooh. Oh, sorry, I didn't want to go first.
So this is very multifaceted. So I actually have
okay.
It might not necessarily be like gender skewed. So it might not necessarily make me stand out, amongst other women. But I think I write very well, and I am able to kind of bring my voice into my writing. Doesn't matter if it's like formal writing or just like an article for my Medium blog. Yeah. So I write very well.
I feel for me, with what you've just said, it might not be the verbal, like vocal voice, but there's a voice in your head that is quite feminine and sees things from another perspective that other people don't. Maybe that's one peculiar thing that helps your writing. I'm just saying.
Yeah, like my worldview as a woman.
Yeah, you see, superwoman. Come on. But what about you?
I think for me, okay, so there are 2 things that come to mind. So one thing is that I'm super organized, like super organized. So that helps me like with my work, even when I'm working with other teams, with other people. I just feel like if I don't document things or like note things down, like my brain will be scattered and like my thoughts will not be together. So that's one thing, one superpower I would say that I have. Another thing is that I'm mostly always smiling or laughing.
Yeah, I've never seen the crack of a frown on your face. Never.
Like even when there's problems or like this person is shouting because something happened at work or like a business is not happy. To be honest, I just try to stay positive, because one thing about me is that if I'm not positive enough, I find that I go into like overdrive or like panic mode, right? So to just be balanced and help people, right? I just just bring positive energy, positive vibes always.
Have you ever used your coy smile to get like a deal or a pass? Sometimes you're outside, they don't want to like give you that, but you just give that sexy smile and we're like, okay.
I can't even lie. So with merchants or with like people I manage, I think it works, because like sometimes I find that people like thrive in informal spaces, so they don't want somebody that's too serious or is like just like not open, or it's like hard, or like, if that makes any sense, right? Like, so like I try to warm up to people. I don't know if that helps. I don't know if that helps in my passing or when I'm negotiating with people, but I think it goes a long way. Like, people want to know that you're friendly, like you're approachable, especially in the kind of work that I do. So
I like how this conversation is starting, because it's like starting from the end. I don't know, the end to the beginning, or the beginning to the end. I really love it, because we're talking about the skills and strategy necessary to bridge this gender gap. Because sometimes as a woman, we bring some of our special skill into the workplace, and I feel that's one of the reasons that we need women in the African tech space. But we've not done proper introduction of you guys on the show. I'd like you to properly tell us what you do and how you do what you do.
So for me, I'm a product specialist at Paystack. I joined Paystack in 2019. So I've been in this role for about 3.5 years now. Primarily what I do is I work with some of Paystack's top businesses. For people that don't know what Paystack is a payments company. We're recently acquired by Stripe a few years ago. We operate in Nigeria, in Ghana, South Africa, and some other Kenyan countries coming up very soon. So my role is I work with the top merchants across Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, building relationships with them, ensuring that they're happy with the Paystack products that they're using, also ensuring that they're growing their business online on Paystack, and most importantly, ensuring that they don't leave Paystack for another competitor. So those are like my primary roles, and how I achieve these three, I guess, functions or responsibilities. Honestly, I'm mostly in in business conversations, in meetings, just getting to know people, like getting to know the co-founder or founder of a startup, how they build their business from the ground up, hearing their stories, hearing their problems, hearing even just brainstorming with them how Paystack can help. So building relationships is a key part of how I'm able to achieve some of the things that I do. Also, being able to understand a business industry and understand what they do, so that you can offer solutions to the problem that they're having, right? So for some of the businesses I manage, it's not just payments problems that they're having. They're having how can we expand to another country? We need your expertise, right? How can we get more customers? How can we do marketing? So being involved in those conversations is something that I do on a day-to-day basis with the businesses that I manage. And I also work a lot with teams across Paystack. So the finance team, design team that Tere is on, legal team. I work cross-functionally across different teams, just ensuring that the businesses that I manage are happy and they are getting the maximum value from Paystack as a whole. So that's in a very high summary and nutshell.
In a short summary, what Folu is doing is close marking the merchants, the users, everybody. She's close marking everybody. It's like a relationship thing where you don't want your partner to be too out there. Don't see what other people are doing. So just only look at me. Yes. Yeah. And of course, keeping them continue the usage of the product, and of course multitasking is what I hear from everything you do.
Very important. Yes, that's a key part.
So Tere, what do you do and how best do you do what you do?
Okay, so I am a product designer at Paystack. I joined I think last year in August, so I'm still a Paystack baby.
How are they treating you?
Oh, very well, very well.
So they're not shouting at you, why did you make that wrong design? Can't you see that didn't work? Are they doing any of that? You can report them, or at least the world is listening.
There's no such character in Paystack. If you join Paystack and you're toxic, you need to drop your toxicity before stepping in. There's none of that is allowed. So as a designer, I work on the expansion team. I know Folu actually talked a bit about some merchants wanting to expand their businesses to other countries, and that's really the area of specialty for the expansion team. So I work as a designer on that team, and what we do essentially is we make sure that the Paystack product is consistent across all the markets that we are scaling into. And I work across multiple teams that have that are cross-functional, have different people working in different teams, like finance, legal, and just working with those people to ensure that the product itself is serving the merchants and their customers in the most useful way. Also, making sure that we kind of make sense of the complexity that there is at Paystack, because there's a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of teams feeding into different challenges we have. A lot of things to consider in terms of like regulations, being in the fintech space. So sometimes as designers or as a designer, I have to kind of contribute to that conversation and say, well, these are the moving parts and like this is what we're doing and this is how design is going to come in, essentially. So really making sense of problems and ensuring quality and clarity on the product's interface and the product experience.
Okay, I really like that contribution that you girls or ladies or women are making in the position that you occupy. But for getting into tech, a lot of women don't even consider it like, oh, I'm going to be a techie. Even saying techie sounds very weird sometimes because tech bro just seem to have the world. We're tech bros. So what actually motivated you into taking up this job roles in a tech space or startup?
So it's interesting whenever I get this question, and whenever somebody asks me why or how did I choose tech or why did I choose tech? Honestly, I feel like tech chose me because at the time in uni, when I was doing my master's, I think fintech was still very early at the time, right? So it was still like a new buzzword, right? And I wasn't even sure if this was what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do at the time. So I think what happened was after my master's, I was looking for internships in companies. I was looking at finance companies because I studied financial management. And in the course of my internship research, I came across a tech company in Hong Kong. And I was fortunate to do an internship with them. I think that role really, motivated me, or was like the starting point of my interest in what fintech was, because the company was a wealth tech startup, so they provided like wealth services through an app, and it was just very interesting, like working with the business team, working with their sales team, pitching to clients, getting people to like use the product and to integrate it to their website. It was very new. Like I didn't even study this in uni, so like this was like a whole different field, right? So I think that was what piqued my interest. So after that role, I decided I was going to come back to Nigeria. So I started looking for what fintech companies are out there in Lagos specifically. Started researching companies, looking at what they do. Came across like I think about 50 companies. I didn't apply to all of them, but like it was just very interesting, like looking at their websites, knowing what they do, the products that they had, like how they were helping businesses, like even like customers, right? I think the very first fintech that I was interested in was Piggyvest, because Piggyvest was doing digital savings. If anybody knows me, I save a lot. So that was something that piqued my interest, right? So across doing all of this research, I came across Paystack, right? And it's funny because for my current role, I thought I was actually underqualified because I think they were asking for 2 years, 3 years work experience. At the time, I did not have that. I think I had like less than a year working, doing internships and all, right? So honestly, I just like put my hat in the ring and I applied. I think I applied on the very last day on the deadline for the role. That was in 2019 and I got in, right? So for me, I didn't always know that I wanted to work in tech. Again, I didn't know what tech was, right? It was just something that as I took on like opportunities, as I volunteered, as I did internships, this was something like I was interested in. Again, I didn't join just because people, at the time, it wasn't like, oh, fintech people have money. Like it was more like, oh, this is just very interesting and this is something that I think that I can do. And it aligned with some of my strengths, right? And some of the things that I was good at. I knew I wanted a customer facing role. I like talking to people. I like communicating. I like selling, right? So like those are the things that I knew that I was like, okay, this field is something that I can work in. So for me, that's my own story. Yeah, that's how I got started and that's how I am where I am today.
Well, I had been in design for quite a bit. I worked as an architect for like a year and a half. I had done my master's in architecture and gone to school generally to be an architect, right? So that is also a discipline in design. But I kind of got to the point where I knew that I wanted to be able to make an impact on contemporary challenges that I saw, day-to-day challenges, finance, health, music, all of these things that we like experience as contemporary life. I wanted to be a part of solving problems in those spaces. And design in tech was like a world of opportunity for impact, right? Because you could literally choose any of these fields, say health tech, fintech, whatever tech, and go in there and like make your mark. So once I was like done with my master's, I just moved into product design, and that is how I started.
Yeah, I think imposter syndrome. We can, like, if I start going into it, we can spend the whole day here. But for me, because I don't know, I think because I was interested in, I guess, the business side of things and the sales side of things, it just wasn't something that I thought of that, okay, I'll be working in with mostly male. Like, it was, I don't know, maybe it's also because I'm very positive. I don't look at things from that perspective. Even on my team, right? I think we have more women than men on my team, right? But I don't think that I was a bit worried, right? Because like I feel like, again, even though like tech is still very much male dominated, right? Especially in some specific roles like engineering and stuff, right? I feel like nowadays there are lots of communities that are targeted towards women and getting them to get the necessary skills to be able to enter or even transition from like a non-tech background to a tech background, right? Yeah, so for me, like I wasn't really...
You were not seeing any intimidation. You were not seeing any male or stereotypical figure in front of you. You were just seeing an opportunity, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good kind of opportunity, yeah.
Tere, what about you? Were you intimidated at some point being a baby product designer and trying to still navigate your way?
Well, I just want to clear up that I'm a baby at Paystack because I just joined.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's a big girl, but you know, when you step into a new place, yeah.
I'm a young stack, essentially.
Okay.
There have been people there for like 4 years. So anyway, so to the question, I think I agree with Folu, right? I definitely was coming from a background of even more male domination. Think like architecture / construction. So you go to site and like you're the only woman there, right? So I was coming from that already. I came into tech and I saw a lot more women than there were in architecture. I also saw a lot more consideration for the gender gap, actually. A lot of companies were hiring specifically women for certain roles. So I came in and I wasn't intimidated. I didn't feel like I feel underrepresented. I didn't feel like that. Although it is the case for some people, but just because of my background.
So were there any qualities from architecture, working with men on site? Were there some of the qualities you had to apply coming into a fintech sector?
Okay, well, a couple of things. I never really saw the need to want to prove my presence. I just got my work done. And the truth is, you know, like your work will always speak for you. Like the quality of your work will speak louder than your loud voice. And so like I never wanted my voice to be louder than my work, right? I was more focused on what I was doing. And yes, like definitely there were instances where you just have, and it might not even be directed solely to a man, right? You just have a person that is badly behaved and they want to talk over you and usually what I did when I was an architect was I just stood my ground, especially when I knew what I was doing and I had approval from like my superiors. I just stood my ground and I insisted on what needed to be done, and usually it got done.
Yeah, I like that. From you and Folu, I could hear that when you look at your job roles, there's not really much gender gap right there. You just have to be surrounded by a lot of women. And of course, where there are many women, men usually feel like we have to cut fights, like, yeah. And then you have to now use some of your, I'm stamping my ground by what I'm saying. So how do you manage each other, seeing that feminine power is rising here and there and you still need to get the work done?
So managing feminine power, right? I don't know, maybe it's because of where Tara and I work and the kind of culture that we have at Paystack. I think that's a big contributor into, like, we don't experience certain things just because, like, I don't know, there's a culture that prevents some things from happening so that we can do our best work, right? Yeah. But when it comes to, like, managing feminine power, was that the question?
Like, just working peacefully with your fellow woman, because most people believe, like, women like to go against each other. Because if you ask so many people, they'll be like, that's one of the reasons why they don't want so many women in the same space.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think I have much experience with that, but I would say that I definitely have, like, friends, and I've heard, like, people's stories of where they work at, and they will say things like, oh, I have a female manager and I just prefer a male manager because, you know, women can be I don't know, overbearing or be micromanaging and all of that, right? That has not been my experience, at least since I started working at Paystack, and I hope I don't experience that. But I think for my team specifically, right, we leverage on each other's strengths. I think one thing that helps my team, again, because of the kind of businesses that we handle, we're handling, like, a lot of, like, revenue. These people are bringing a lot of revenue. So we don't see it as a source of competition, right? We leverage each other's strengths a lot. Like, I'm skilled in one thing, my team member is skilled in another thing. And we ensure that the goal, again, is that we want to maximize, like, these businesses that we're managing, right? So we leverage on each other's skills a lot. So, like, if we don't know something, we ask questions. I don't know that we've ever had, like, a situation where, like, a woman is fighting. I don't think that we've ever experienced that in my team, at least. I can't speak for other teams, right? Because, again, I think all of these things comes from the kind of culture the company has, right? Because if the leadership of the company has put in place certain work cultures and traditions, there are just some things that will not happen, right? You wouldn't just be fighting, because, again, it will come across as you are fighting your your colleagues, but you are not putting, like, the larger picture or, like, the larger goal or the company goal in mind, right? So I think for my particular situation, just that culture, I think that's one thing that employers need to take note of, right? Especially when it comes to getting more women in tech specifically, right? In the tech startup, in the tech field, even in, like, tech roles, like STEM roles, right? I think that's where a lot of work has to be done, right? Because those roles are very, very technical, like engineering, your coding, and all of that, right? So I think that's one thing, that culture conversation is something that we need to have a lot, especially in Nigeria, because I've heard a lot of stories of toxic culture and workplaces, right, that can affect, like, even, like, women coming into the workplace in that particular company, right? So, yeah, I know that doesn't necessarily answer your question, but that's, like, a general.
I mean, you've still answered the question in the sense that there are some of your friends that have actually discussed some issues like that with you, because regardless that Paystack gives you the space to thrive as a woman, and woman to woman, you leverage on each other's strength. There's still a work culture that enables you guys to have, like, a peaceful and smooth work. So in some other places, people struggle with some work culture, policies, framework that doesn't enable them to thrive. So instead, they are more like competing against each other to move forward. So that kind of answers it.
Yeah.
So moving on, so let me just take the next question, because Tere is still Paystack, and I feel like you guys are under the same umbrella. So what do you think stop most girls or women from, like, taking opportunities in tech spaces or tech companies, startups, or even advancing their career in tech?
I feel like I want to be slightly controversial.
Go ahead. I like controversy.
Honestly, like, I said it earlier, we've seen a lot of companies. Some people might say they are virtue signaling. Who knows, right? But we've seen a lot of companies open up opportunities specifically for women, or preferably for women, right? And so sometimes they are hiring and they say, this batch of people we're hiring, we want 70% to be women and blah, 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 30% to be men. So I think that it might not necessarily be for a lack of opportunities in some fields. There are some fields that are, like, deeply biased against women. That's a different conversation. For tech, I don't think it is a lack of opportunities per se. I think that there are actually several research papers and studies done on the difference in gender when it comes to risk aversion. And these studies generally say that women are more averse to risk. It means they prefer not to take risks, or men take more risks than women. And I feel like that plays out in tech, where you see that the biggest risk takers are like the ones that play the game of winner takes all. And like if they win, they end up being the biggest winners, right? They end up winning the biggest deals, the biggest investments. And you see men at the forefront of that. I think that, like, especially in Africa, we need to kind of address this roots issue, because I've seen it. I can't speak for every woman. I can only say what data says and then speak personally for myself. And I read that thing and I was like, yeah, I definitely feel that. Like, I've been faced with some opportunities where I just begin to think of everything that can go wrong for me not to like perform well in this role. Like, I'm not good enough. Not even I'm not good enough, because I don't want to go down the path of imposter syndrome. I'm saying, like, I don't know if I'll be able to see this through, right? And it's that risk aversion. So maybe just like equipping women not only with like general skills, but like equipping women with a mindset that like instills excellence and like rigor into the work they do. So just like pushing yourself a bit, right? If you're a woman that like speaks to other women, especially like trying to get them into spaces where women are historically underrepresented, like instilling those women with mindsets where you are like, just push yourself a bit more. I can definitely use a bit more push in some things that I want to do. Just take some risks on yourself. Take some bets on yourself. Like, can you do this? See if you can do it. Don't just hold back a bit. Might not be for every woman. We know some women who are out there doing great things, like shoulder to shoulder with some men that are taking huge risks. But based on data and just like a personal experience, we see that generally women take less risks. So I think that like it isn't for lack of opportunity, but just this like underlying, like, I don't know, nature of being risk averse in some cases.
So what I could hear is you're playing the mental strength, saying that the male, they can actually just push past some challenges and obstacles, but women still have to think it through. Is it because they feel like they have so many things to lose, like, you know, sometimes being unavailable to your partner, to your family, having other social roles that you play? I don't know. Is that some of the things you're thinking that stops the mindset of a woman to push and advance her career?
It's very possible. You know, like women are primary caretakers when a child is born, right? No matter how involved your husband is, right? If you have a child, you automatically, or like your partner is, if you have a child, you just become the primary caretaker because you are feeding, you've just given birth to the baby and all of those things. So maybe some women naturally have the tendency to subconsciously think about that and say, you know, like, maybe I want to be at a comfortable position so that if I ever get into that space in my life or that phase in my life, I'll be able to leave off work if I need to, or continue at my own pace so that I can be available. Some women also have the consideration of like just being available to their partner. Some men do too, right? I feel like that's when you get to talking about relationships and all of that. But yeah, I think that like it could be just a natural subconscious consideration. It might not necessarily be the main thing, but it could be contributing.
It could be one of those things.
Yeah.
Folu, what do you think? Is it one of those things for you that you think might be stopping women from, pushing and wanting more in the tech space?
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything Tara said. I think it's definitely spot on. I think for me, especially when it comes to advancing, because there's two parts to the conversation, right? Yeah. There's getting women to enter these roles and then get women to even apply for roles that even advance them in their career, right? For me, I'm not married. I don't have children. So those things are not the things that are top of mind for me when it comes to advancing career. I think what Tere said about being risk averse is something that applies to me a lot. So I usually think, like this role is available. I don't think I'm qualified, or there's a lot more to learn in my current role that I need to figure out first before I move forward. The thing about just like Tara said, if you don't bet on yourself, if you don't believe in yourself first, like your employer, your manager, it's very hard for them to even like put you out there to support you, right? I think that it has to come from you. Like another thing that helps me is that I usually ask myself, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? If I apply for the role, if I want to do this, the worst thing that will happen is most likely I will not get it, right? And even with you not getting it, you're still learning, right? I think that's the major like motivation for me, and that's what has helped me advance in my career, right? There are lots of things I don't know, but there are lots of skills I've gained, right? A lot of women also say, I just have 2-year work experience in this, and this job is asking me for 5 years. I don't have it, right? And they just automatically disqualify themselves, right? Whereas some men would be like, I have 1 year experience, I'll still apply, right? So I think that's some of like the risk averse thinking, right? Especially for me, because those are some of the things that I think of when like there's a new role, or like my manager says I volunteer for a new project, right? In the back of my head, I'm thinking, do I have the required skills to be able to complete this and finish this successfully? Not just to just do it, but to actually do an amazing job so that like, my work is recognized, right? So I think women, I again, like Tere said, I think like there are a lot of opportunities for women. I feel like women just need to put themselves more, right? And I know it's not easy, trust me, because we're not talking about imposter syndrome, but that's a big like factor today. In addition to responsibilities at home, with your partner, having children, of course, those are some of the things. Life happens, right? As much as you are building your career, like things are happening to you personally that also might take away from your advancement or your growth and things like that, right? So I think for me, those are the things that I would say about like just getting women involved, right? The opportunities are there. Again, there are even communities that are targeted to women, right? To allow you to, if you feel like you don't have the skills, or you feel like you're not, by the time you join 1 or 2 communities or go for 1 or 2 events, right, and you see like women speaking and leadership roles, like it will motivate you, right, to like put yourself out there and do like more of those opportunities. Yeah.
Well said from Tara and Folu. One thing I've heard from you both is audacity. If your audacity is not strong enough, you don't feel that confidence enough in your abilities and skills, you would not want to take the role, you would not want to take the position, you would think, this one, I think a guy should come and do it. But if you have the audacity, because sometimes even apply to driving, you see some ladies, they drive like a man. I don't want to call anybody's name, but it sounds like Folu is one of them.
Wow.
That kind of, some people believe that if a traffic is being caused at the front, maybe it's a lady that doesn't know how to drive. But then when you get there and you see a lady driving so fast, you just wonder like, what's going on? So I think that kind of applies to some roles where you feel like a man should be there, but then you find a woman doing that. I think it has a lot to do with the mindset. But let me play like the advocate, not the devil. But in all of these roles that you guys don't want to take or do, or you feel like risk aversion and everything, if they increase your money, your salary, your earning capability, will you take that role? Yes or no?
Of course, yes. Like more money is always good. So let me even use like a personal example. I recently had like an opportunity to apply for a role with big, like larger responsibilities, right? And at first I was like, I don't think that I'm qualified. I don't think that I'm ready. But the thing about working in a team is that your teammates will recognize skills that you think that you take for granted, right? They would be the ones to push you if you are working in a very like well-functioning environment, well-functioning culture, and all of that, right? And they were the ones, like my teammates were the ones that said, you know what, Folu, like you can do this. This is like you've done this in the past. Like this is like they gave me examples, right? And I applied, right? And I got the role, and I'm going to be transitioning into that role soon, right? So for me, and then I didn't even know there was more money involved, right? That's why I said, is even good, but like for me, I was saying, the first thing that came to mind is that if I get this role, I'm going to be given more challenges. I'm going to be solving bigger problems, and this is one step into like advancing my career in so many different ways, right? So I'm a bit logical when I think about like career advancements, right? So for me, and this is a very like recent example where, so, and that's what I mean by like putting yourself out there. Like, again, the worst that will happen is no, you will not get it. And there'll be clear, if you work in a structured environment, there'll be clear feedback, or there should be clear feedback on where, like, on why you're not ready for the role, why you didn't get the role, what you can work on so that you can get other roles, right? I also applied for roles where I didn't get an offer, and there was a clear reason. And thank God I didn't get those roles, right? Because like I was not interested. Like now that I look back, I was not interested, right? And you learn a lot from like putting yourself out there. You learn a lot from interviews that you do. You learn a lot from even speaking to your manager or people in leadership positions at your company. Mm-hmm. So I think like that is one thing. Like just put yourself out and like apply for roles. Apply. Like you wouldn't know if you get it. Like you not applying, you're already saying no. Like the automatic answer is no. Like you're not even giving yourself a chance, right? But if you apply, there's a 50-50 chance that you get this new position or this new role or these new advancements, right? So why cut yourself short?
First of all, I think I want to applaud you for your new role, even if you're not transitioned yet. So yes, let's get some claps. Yes. Tere, what about you? Would money motivate you to take some risk-averse role?
In the past, money hasn't really shocked me out of my risk aversion.
They've not increased the digits. The digit that will shock you.
Well, maybe, right? Maybe, but I think that I've seen, roles that have been really promising in terms of pay. But again, like, usually mindset is very important in pushing you to do something or like keeping you back from doing something. And it might not even necessarily be imposter syndrome, just feeling like I am not prepared for this, or I don't know what to expect, and I don't want to walk into darkness, and then I get there and then I'm not, like, they'll now say, oh, this lady, she's not giving what she's meant to give.
This gender.
So it is definitely like the mindset. So money hasn't been able to like deter that, but maybe if I see a big enough
the numbers that confuse you, that when you look at your account, you try to see the figure. Let me understand this figure. Yeah. So what Tere is just standing on is the mindset. But after mindset, let's move to programs. Are there programs that you recommend? Any of you can recommend programs for ladies that are listening? Folu, you talked about community. There are communities that people can look into, get into, like hangout spots, all those social things that could actually help you in networking and building a team of women around you.
So for me, when it comes to networking, I prefer to work in like informal settings. So like any events where like I know tech people will be there, or like my friends that work in tech would be there. But two communities I know and that are doing really amazing work is WeTech. So WeTech, they are targeted specifically for women who want to transition from non-tech backgrounds into the tech world, right? They do a lot of, I think they have an annual event every year where they bring women together, allow them learn, get insight into how they can even get internship opportunities. Because I think the earlier we get women to be involved in tech, even as early as primary school, right, and getting them to code, right, etc., right. So WeTech community is one. Another community that I've heard of is She Code Africa. So they are more targeted to, like, I guess, women like who want to enter the engineering field, who want to learn how to code, who want to build that skill set. So those are two communities that I know of that are doing a really good job. But even apart from this, like, there are always events going on, virtual events, physical events. There's always a Twitter space where like people talk about tech. So I would say, like, just put yourself out there, like look out for this event. Some of these communities organize events themselves. You find that even on Instagram, like you come across like one or two conferences that are going on. And these are some of the ways that you can not only learn, but meet people, because it's one thing for me to learn from afar. It's another thing for you to meet somebody who's actually doing the work that you want to do, or the role that you want to transition into, and having that one-on-one personal conversation with them would be really, really insightful. So yeah, those are some communities.
Tere, what would you recommend?
Since Folu has already spoken about communities, I was going to talk about She Code, but I think She Code is quite renowned for the work that they do. I think that another good way to learn the skills you need to get into tech is to curate your like learning path. Not everybody knows where to start, right? But if you've gotten into some of these communities and you have like a general idea of the things that you need to like the basic things, oh, I need to learn Python, I need to learn Java, I need to learn Figma, whatever. When you've gotten to that point, I think that is really beneficial to curate your learning path so that you kind of put in your view the people who are doing what you want to do, the people who are where you want to be, and kind of do it in a way that you are setting up yourself to see people who are just a few steps ahead of you, like someone who has 2 years more experience, maybe 1 year of experience more than you, then 5 years, then 10 years, right? So that you can see practical steps that you can take to move towards like your destination, your dream career, right? And then also one thing I would really, really say is that don't only limit yourself to female communities and female mentors. Again, because we see that men are doing like really good things, you need to get into those spaces and learn what they are doing. Like if one of them is one of the people that you're aspiring to on that career path I just talked about, the 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, then it's fine. Like if one of them is a man, it's okay. Like as far as the idea is to be good at your job, like the idea is to be a high quality person, right, at this career path. So if there's somebody who can demonstrate the skills you are looking for, then it's okay. Like if the person isn't a woman, right? But doesn't mean that you should neglect the female community. There's strength in, coming together, but also don't just only be part of female communities.
Well said, well said. I hear leverage on social apps that are used for networking, and not just networking on social apps and listening to all of the lives and the spaces, but also going out there into the community, see what's happening, the events and all of that stuff. And of course, I hear mentorship and coaching. Well said, guys. We are almost running out of time, but the conversation is super. And when ladies just sit to talk, time will just be moving, and I'm having so much fun just having this conversation with you guys. But then I really want to put in these 2 questions. So quick one, guys, what do you think the future of women in tech will be looking like? I mean, just looking at the uncertainty of the African economy and of course the penetration of tech in Africa. So as a visionary, what are you seeing for women, the future of women in tech? What is it going to look like for you?
I think for me, I see more women in leadership roles. I see more women starting companies and creating ideas. In Nigeria, there's so many problems to be solved, so many. And I think like that's one area that I see like a lot of women being in, and also even tech, just generally, right? Because there are other areas that I think that there would be like a lot of progress in. Even out of my network and my communities, like I know a lot of smart women, lots of smart men, learned a lot from them. But I think for me, just because I work in a company, right, I do see like people, women taking on more leadership roles, more mentorship roles, mentoring other women just for them to like gather skills, advance in their career, even personal life too as well, because we can't ignore the fact that, I know career is one thing, but at the end of the day, there's still like the personal life and the lifestyle that contributes towards sometimes the productivity that you give in the workplace. So I think just for me, those 2 things are really what I see in the future.
Tere, what's your foresight seeing?
All I have to say to what Folu said is yes.
Okay, because you have to agree, I'm going to throw in one question, but that's not the last question. I have my last question. So what's the pro of having women in these tech roles, these tech spaces, tech industry? What's the pro?
I think the obvious answer is that you have representation, and so you can see somebody who is also a woman, doing these things. But I think that another pro is even just thinking about the diversity, because there's women and then like people from different backgrounds, right? Because women are also just people. So people from different backgrounds being able to come into this tech space and show you that it doesn't matter what background you have or what like your mindset or orientation towards life is, you can come in here and succeed if you put in the work.
Good, well said. I feel like I should even give you a round of applause because this Tere, she's just
Please give her a round of applause, please.
Yes. So before we run out, because time is a bit against us here, is there any particular woman who have actually impacted your life and you love to celebrate? I mean, it's Women's Month and next week is International Women's Day. So is there any particular female figure in your life who has actually been a great supporter, who has helped you in one way or another or impacted your decision in moving forward in a career field?
I think for me, it's definitely my mom. She has been a very, very big support to not just even just my career, just life generally. Because this adulting of a thing.
Adulthood now.
Really take it too. But I've learned a lot from her. I think that the relationship that I have with my parents has definitely grown. Now that I'm like, living on my own and making my own money and I guess like solving my own problems. So my mom has and she's been a big contributor to that. And there are a lot of things that even some of the skills that I have is from her that I learned it from. So yeah, I would say like my mom is definitely one woman that is a big role for me. Yeah. There are others, but I'll just leave it there.
Charity begins at home and you're taking it to the workspace. That's good. Tere, what about you? Who is that woman?
The same. My mom is a superwoman. She's a superwoman, queen of multitasking, queen of charity, queen of love, queen of jokes, queen of money. No, too much. Too much.
Okay, now let me flip. Is there any woman in tech that you actually admire their work, what they're doing? I know you've mentioned She Code. Is there any other woman you'd like to specifically give a shout out to for what they're doing?
I have one person, but she's not a Nigerian, and I don't know if she'll ever listen to this, but her name is Debbie Levitt, and she's a customer experience / UX designer / consultant. She's much older, so she's been doing this for a while, and I think she's based out of Italy. And she's very inspirational to me because she takes her time to teach people proper applications of UX and like proper mindset, proper perspectives on how to think about certain things. And the growth, anytime you listen to her stuff, the growth is always phenomenal. So yeah, shout out to Debbie Levitt.
Great. Folu, what about you? Aside mom?
Yeah, mine will be Ibukun Awoshika. I've never had a one-on-one conversation with her, but she has this event that she does every December. And you think about her, apart from the fact that she's done amazing work, she uses her network to create opportunities for young people, right? I've learned a lot from her events. I've learned a lot about family life, relationships, how relationships affect your work life, the things you can do to grow your career, how to manage like conflict in the workplace. Like she's just an all-round woman, right? And I think the biggest thing that she's done for me is just like, again, I've learned the spirit of like leveraging your network to do the things that you want to do, right? Not just even just like workplace. You want to organize an event, people tend to look like from outside their network but you'd be surprised what like your friends can do, right? So I think that's one person that for me has been a very, very big impact, especially in the last 2 years of going to her events.
That's great one from Tere and Folu. I just feel like this chat should not end because there are so many things we can keep talking about. This sector, there's a lot of conversation that hasn't been spoken of enough. So would you guys give us the opportunity of inviting you some other time on the show? Are you guys going to say yes? I'm kind of putting you on the hot spot, so you will not say no, but say yes.
Well, yeah, I'm always open as long as I'm available. Yeah, I'm happy to join in again.
Okay, for those who would like maybe advice, mentorship, and all of that stuff, would you mind sharing your social media accounts, handle that they can follow you, just in case they want to slide in your DM? Guys, beware, it's for people that need
Yeah. So on Instagram, I'm Folu Otubanjo. On LinkedIn, I'm Folu Otubanjo as well. I hardly use Twitter. In fact, I can't remember my Twitter username, but Instagram is probably the best place to slide into my DMs, and LinkedIn. A lot of people do reach out to me on there.
Tere, what about you? Social Connect.
Yeah, Twitter is probably the place to follow, and then you can reach out on LinkedIn because my Twitter is for like airing my opinions.
What's the handle?
My Twitter handle is Tere Sagay together _ and then on LinkedIn I'm just Tere Sagay. So you can find me on those two.
I don't know why goodbye always feels so hard. I don't know. I'm just sulking right now. Because I have to let you guys go. I feel like you should still be talking. Is there any last word you'd like to say before we say goodbye? Okay, you can ask for any song you'd like to listen to. Maybe a song that usually gives you the drive to keep pushing.
I already have my song. I'm just waiting for Tere.
Commando by Great Man Takit and Corale.
I weak because even I'm trying to look at my playlist right now. I know it's not there, but there's one place I know.
Please, you have to find it too.
We can always find everything. YouTube is my friend. Folu, is there anyone that you think I might know that you want?
Hopefully, you have this song. Mine is Live Life, Show Them Camp and Thames.
Hello, Show Them Camp. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I know I can't give you anything in return for your time. It's been a wonderful moment on the show with you, Folu, and Tere. You guys are amazing ladies, and I'm so proud of you. And Africa Tech Radio is also the space where we celebrate what you're doing at Paystack. So thank you so much for your time. I will be playing your song right now. Goodbyes are hard, but I just have to say goodbye. Do have yourself a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to catch up on all the live shows right here on africatechradio.com.